Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Good evening. Call to order for the Community Equity Advisory Committee for January 28th, 2026. And we'll move right into number 2, approval of the minutes. And I would like to see if there's a motion to approve the minutes from the December 15th meeting.
Approval for the December 15 minutes.
Okay.
Second that.
Great. Do I have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion has passed and those minutes have been approved. We'll go on to number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. And Sarah, just confirming we have no public appearances.
No public appearances.
Great. And we move right into.
I just want to say I'm here, folks. I don't know if we did attendance. I'm sorry. I had some work from down at the Capitol, so that's why I'm off video. Just finishing up some stuff, but just wanted to say hello and let everyone know I was here.
Perfect.
Thank you, Alder Dantzler. We have everyone here for the committee meeting tonight, so that's great. We'll move on to agenda item number 4A, and welcome a new committee member, Chase Zimmerman. And we'll go around briefly, start out with Chase and give a brief introduction and give Chase some instructions before the meeting started, just to give us something, some information that he'd like to share with us, and we'll follow suit.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Chase Zimmerman. I'm a new Fitchburg resident, so I just moved here in May. But I grew up in Marshall, which is pretty close to Madison, so very familiar with the Madison area and whatnot. Coming from Whitewater, where I did my undergrad in finance and management, but I was very involved at Whitewater. Really loved government work and just sort of doing the committees and finding unique ways to give back and make creative change in your community. And I did that in all different types of ways, whether it was dining or the work that we're trying to do in this committee. And so when I heard about the opening, I was like, all right, I'm going to sign myself up. And my fun fact is that I'm colorblind. So that's my thing. There you go.
Question, is there a specific color?
It's red and green and blue and purple.
Okay.
So Whitewater's colors are purple, and when I got my approval letter in the mail, I was like, oh, blue, I love blue. And my kids were like, oh, honey. So, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to be here.
I'd love if we went around. Why don't we start on screen first? So we'll start with Janice, if you would like to give us a brief of your background. Let Chase know who you are.
Good evening. Welcome, Chase, first and foremost. I'm Janice Hughes, and I am a long-term resident of Fitchburg. I sit on several committees out here. I'm a commissioner for the Committee for Age and Wellness with the Senior Center. Obviously, I'm on the Equity Advisory Committee. I'm on the Housing Plan committee. I also am on the History Wall committee. So I'm really involved in what I do and giving back to this community, and I'm excited to have you join us, and welcome.
Thank you, Janice. We'll move on to Donald.
Good evening. Well, Chase, we've met, so good to see you again. Donald Dantzler, one of the alders on the council, serving District 3, Seat 6, and then also the liaison for the Community Equity and Action Committee.
Thank you, Donald. Oh, Colleen.
My name is Colleen Butler. I use she, her pronouns, and I lived in Madison most of my adult life, but moved to Fitchburg about 5 years ago, and just kind of recently started to try to figure out ways to get more involved in this community. And most of my work has been in the field of equity and inclusion, and so worked YWCA, which is a local nonprofit, for a long time, and I'm now doing consulting work with a small consulting cooperative called the Nina Collective.
Welcome. Good to see you. My name is Bill Gillespie, and I've been on this committee since its inception. I think there's just 3 of us left. And so it's been great, and it's been really, really a good experience. Was real involved in social justice when I was a professor at UW La Crosse for a while, but did a lot of my work in K-12 leadership, education, and things like that. But this has always been a real passion of mine. I'm a member of the PFLAG committee in Madison. PFLAG is an organization of allies for the LGBTQ plus community. So I have 2 out of the 3 of my children in the community, and I've always been real active in that charge as well. I'm the webmaster. I guess that's my little tidbit of that for that committee, which is interesting because usually you think of the older people as not being that great at computer, but I did a lot of teaching online, so I'm still going to school, believe it or not. I'm actually taking a course called Life in the U-verse. I'm a senior auditor now for UW. Yeah. So I love it. It's a lot of fun. I love the Madison area. I've always wanted to be here and just came here to retire, really. I have a son here, but also just this was always my dream to retire here in Madison.
Thanks, Bill. Christopher Pagaro, he, him, his. Chair of the committee. I love this work, and with Bill and Janice, one of the original folks from first ad hoc committee, now the permanent committee. So it's been great work here at the City of Fitchburg. I'm also on the Parks Committee as well. I am also elected for the city of, or the Vernon Area School District representing Fitchburg. So about 1.5 years now doing that work. That's been a lot of fun. I am Two-Spirit, queer, Indigenous, and Latino, Mexican-American. We have trans kiddo and trans folks in our family. So a lot of my work is around race and social justice, but also with a queer lens and gender equity. I tend to get in trouble sometimes. So I guess I'm doing the work right if I'm getting in trouble, but and not hard to do in these times. But we've been here for 5 years. I moved here with my family during the pandemic from Seattle. So I finished my undergrad at Stevens Point, moved out to Seattle to learn how to get in trouble. Worked at the city for about almost 15 years before we moved to Madison. So I've done DEI work primarily in the nonprofit, public and private sector, and I'm currently looking for work. So yeah, so that's it. My most important job though is being a dad and being at home with my kids and making sure that they know what all this is about. So they're well informed. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Question.
Yeah.
Is that school board with the Fitchburg?
Yeah, yeah. I'm the school board, the Fitchburg representative for the Vernon Area School District.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Confusing.
Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
appreciate it. So I'm Jessica, and I have lived in Fitchburg since my twins were born in Chicago. I grew up in Sun Prairie, so I'm very aware of where Marshall is. Before they had a Costco, and plans and things. They are up and coming middle schoolers, and that's exciting. So we've been here for a minute. I had started doing a lot of this DEI work actually with the Nina Collective while just exploring some things, and then got pretty involved with it and started an equity alliance in my old department, which is still going strong, which is very exciting. And now I'm on a few different committees at my current situation. Yeah, I think I'm just really passionate about it. It's hard to do it in my current role right now, given all the things. And so saw this opportunity and just really excited that this exists, that it's supported, that other people feel it too. So yeah, it's great.
Oh, sorry. I'm Sarah Olson, staff contact. I've been with the city for over 7 years now. Yeah, and it's just a privilege to be part of this team and be the staff contact. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here. And I am a UW Whitewater alum. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Great school.
Thanks, everybody, and welcome, Chase. Welcome to the team. We're excited to have your perspective and keep things rolling.
Appreciate the warm welcome.
Move on to agenda item 4B, reviewing 2026 city plans, and I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Yeah, you bet. So at our last meeting, the team was looking for a list of different city plans that are in the hopper. So I have a little list here for you. So let me get to this page. All right, so the first thing is the city's comprehensive plan. So this serves as that document to help guide us through 2030. So this is actually updating the 2009 plan. This helps us identify, what we're doing for land use, transportation, housing, economic development, all of those different areas. And so the highlight for this plan is it's a 10-year vision. So it talks about 2020 through 2030. So I'm not sure exactly why we are updating it right now when we're just a few, years away from 2030. But Deanna Schmidt, our city planner and zoning administrator, is the staff contact for this comprehensive plan. So one of the things we could do is ask Deanna to come and talk to our group. And talking with the mayor, there's going to be a lot of outreach and community participation with the comprehensive plan, and it's going to be they're going to be doing this for the next couple of years, so it's not something that it will be finished this year. So it might be that they're trying to finish it up, and then it'll just, I don't know if they'll revisit it again and start working on another 10-year plan. I'm not exactly sure. So unfortunately, all I can share with you is that we have a comprehensive plan that we are going through an update of.
Do we have an idea of when that engagement will happen?
That's a great question.
Okay.
So that's going to be, there's a whole page on the city's website related to the comprehensive plan. If you just go to the city's website and look up Growing Fitchburg 2030, there's a lot of resources and information on there. And I'd be happy to go there. I just don't know if you'll be able to see my screen when I do. But under the planning and zoning department, or if you just type in Fitchburg 2030 and the search, you should be able to see here 20 comprehensive plan 2030, and then it's going to show you a number of, how is it going to be used, the adopted plans and studies, a summary of how the comprehensive plan update happened in 2019 to 2020. They had neighborhood meetings, they had a community survey, they had an informational open house, and additional meetings. So I don't think they've set any dates aside yet. This is like they're in the early stages of planning.
Okay.
Yep. So that I just have that information for you at this point, but if we want, what the team could do is, talk to Deanna and have her come to one of our next meetings to kind of tell us more about the comprehensive plan, what that is going to entail, when all that outreach will happen.
Sarah, is there any correlation and alignment with the strategic plan that's being worked on?
So the strategic plan is on hold right now. So if you recall, we had it went to council. It's probably been almost 2 years now in the making. So we had a consultant that did it. We took it to
Yeah.
some different committees, and the committees didn't feel that it was what we really needed. So right now, it's just kind of been put on hold, and it's still out there. So I have more plans to show you, but the strategic plan is definitely out there, and it probably does go hand in hand a little bit with the comprehensive.
Yeah.
Plan. It's all related, right?
Yeah, that's what I was asking, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And just for some historical context, the strategic plan was brought in front of the ad hoc equity committee, and we shared a lot of feedback in regards to that engagement perspective, and actually right before it was presented to council, common council meeting. And so just to let you know, we did give some feedback, and it would be great to see, how that feedback was incorporated. Actually, the presenter that presented in front of common council really brought a lot of our feedback to the surface during that meeting, which was great to hear. But yeah, I hope there's another opportunity to look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So if we wanted her to come, if we wanted Deanna to come to the next one, like, will we look at all of them and then decide?
That might be
Okay.
the best, is go through all the different
Okay.
plans and just see what's on the horizon, and then just see where we can insert, or we can also watch some of the plan commission meeting, right? Because that is an active committee that's working on the comprehensive plan. So it's for our team too to kind of watch some of these meetings, to gather some of that information, and then we can ask Deanna questions, but to learn more outside of the committee about some of these plans.
And just to that point, I think it's a good reminder that, we did talk a little bit about the bike plan last meeting and decided to shelve it, that we were ready to make comment on it. So I think it's a good reminder, just as we have time in our own time to review some of these, and we can decide as a committee to focus on one, and if we have an invite for Deanna to come to a meeting, we're doing that homework beforehand. Also, we can potentially meet in small groups, just as long as we don't meet quorum, to go over things and ask questions if we want to develop questions as a group or a small group. So we just have to make sure that we're meeting our meeting rules, that we're not having an outside non-public meeting because we're a public committee.
Exactly. And quorum's 4, so as long as we have under 4 people meeting, then that's okay.
Sir, could you review again?
Yeah.
Why was the strategic plan not move forward
Well,
after all? There was a lot of work done on
There
that.
was a lot of work. So if you recall, when it came to community equity, there was concern about not enough outreach. We didn't get a lot of survey responses, and there wasn't a whole lot of participation from the communities. So there was concern that this might not be a true picture of what the community actually needs. And so it was kind of, the council had a hard time voting to approve it without us making some substantial changes. So now that those comments and the feedback from the team were taken back to the consultant, and the consultant reworked the plan a little bit. But now I'm not exactly sure when it's going to come back around. So Adam, our deputy city administrator, is working on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just to add one last detail, sorry.
Great.
The ad hoc committee forms before, actually, I think the request for proposal went out for the strategic plan. So that engagement and kind of some of the concerns that we brought to the table, it was really last minute for the consultant because it wasn't part of the original RFP or RFQ. So, that shows the importance of this work, and as we move forward with other RFPs or RFQs that are similar, we want to, hopefully have, that's going to not be a second thought or not a thought, but rather part of that RFQ or RFP.
Exactly. Yep. And then the second.
Sarah, could I just say one thing real quick?
Please, yes.
The other thing I wanted to just alert folks of, given we're a new committee, is that I know, like, for example, we didn't get a chance to review the bike and pedestrian plan because there wasn't enough, like, folks didn't feel like had enough time or opportunity to really delve into it to offer critical feedback and commentary. The one thing I will say, like, these agendas go out like a week in it, or the packets are put up a week in advance or so for that matter. So I know, like, folks are busy and things like that, and there might be a great deal of work, especially when it comes to something as large as like the bike and pedestrian plan or the strategic plan or the comp plan or some of these other larger things that we do. So I like the chair's commentary around maybe like forming subgroups to review things, but otherwise, um, we have to take like a few hours or so outside of these meetings to come like with comments already ready for like some of these documents that we discuss when it becomes an agenda item for this meeting. So I just wanted to throw that out there as kind of an expectation, because I know folks weren't necessarily like went through a formal training or anything like when joining these committees, but that is kind of sort of well, not kind of, it is an expectation on all of our running committees that we kind of come ready to discuss the agenda items, and being able to put those packets out early are the reason for being able to come to these discussions kind of ready to add input or things or make suggestions to whatever it is that we may be have decided to put on the agenda for that meeting.
Oh, but Donna, can I add something to that?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand and agree with what you're saying. However, that was not necessarily the situation. We people not looking at that document beforehand, but then when Steve Arnold came in, he brought in some other information that I think it kind of threw people off a little bit, because it was, even for myself, I questioned, wow, was what he's bringing to this table, how does that impact the document that we had prior to coming to that meeting? So it's not so much that people weren't prepared or didn't read that document, but now when he came in with other information, what was the impact, or is there an impact from an equity standpoint in terms of, for example, the roads that he was speaking about, the signs that weren't there, this or that? Was there any equity discrepancies or things that can affect disabled individuals trying to on that path, or and not having signs, or elderly people, seniors trying to walk? So it was more than just, oh, this plan came through, we weren't prepared and we didn't pass it through. And Chris actually made a motion to pass it, and it went dead. It was cricket, because I don't, excuse me, I don't think people were ready to move forward, because when Chris Arnold came in, he had a lot of information. And I have to
Yes.
speak for myself. I wasn't ready to say, oh, okay, I'm ready to just approve that plan and disregard what he came with other information. So that I just want to put that out there. So I agree with what you're saying overall, but we also have to take into consideration that this person came with some additional information.
Understood. And let me rephrase, if what I said came off as I was saying folks weren't prepared, that isn't what I was trying to say. I was just trying to, given that we have some new committee members, and
Yeah,
some folks on the first time joining a committee. So I was just trying to set the stage for expectations of what things will look like in the future as some of these plans come, and not that the previous plan that came to us last meeting, folks were unprepared for that, because I'm aware that former Mayor Arnold did come and
yeah,
add some commentary to those plans, and we will also invite him back, and we're going to have further discussion around the bike and pedestrian plan with the Community Equity Committee based on some comments that were discussed at last night's council meeting, that we want to
yeah,
add into and kind of embed into some of these plans, and make sure that the Equity Committee is doing its due diligence that we set out to do, and can add some commentary in there. So again, this
yeah.
was just a foresight, and not an implication that folks came to the last meeting unprepared.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you, and I watched that last night, so I totally agree that there needs to be some further discussion on that plan. But because we do need to do our due diligence and make sure that we are giving our best effort in terms of passing, plans through, giving our information, our input. So yeah, no, I just wanted to throw that out there too, because it was the fact that we do have, new members on this committee. Other than Bill and myself and Chris, we were there last year, and knew of some of the changes that, for example, Emmanuel put in there, and he's not there this year to talk about it. So I just wanted to share that. I'm not saying that you were saying anything derogatory or bad about the training going forward, but I just want to make sure that we understand that when Steve Arnold came in, he came in with guns blazing. He had a lot of information that was not in that plan, and it was hard to make a decision right there on spot. That's all I'm saying.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is Christopher. I just wanted to add another piece of context for framing for our new members and just kind of how our meetings typically go. Last meeting I was a little uncomfortable, just get my training wheels on still. But typically when we have public comment, it's usually about 3 minutes for public comment. I don't anticipate for a while that we'll be getting public comment on things. We may, and there may be times where they're contentious. That's why that limit can be good for us. But typically that's a space for us just to listen. And there's usually not a lot of interaction of committee members with those public comments. In fact, that's really we don't want to do that. We want to listen, consider, and then once that public comment is done, we can discuss, and then we'll have a vote based on that discussion, either to move something or to table it. So that's kind of how Robert's Rules works. It is a way to hear things, but not for it to become this argument space or discussion space with potentially contentious issues. So it's just really to honor who's here to give their opinion and their thoughts for us to consider and for us to then move a discussion.
No, I was basically just gonna say, yeah, it's a way for us to listen but not force an action on behalf of the committee in an appropriate fashion.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Does the kind of listening session part usually happen in the same meeting when we are taking a vote, or are those separate?
It can. So it can be for agenda items or non-agenda items. Okay. We usually have it public comment for non-agenda items. That was number 3 on today's agenda. But then we can welcome comment before we hear an item. So before we go to like something we're gonna make a motion on, we can have public comment before that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I just make one clarification real quick?
Yes, please.
So the difference is like when there's a difference between like a public comment coming in where folks get 3 minutes to speak about and then we don't engage. However, like for example, when former Mayor Arnold came to talk about something specific that was an agenda item, we can engage in discussion with that person in that context. So I just wanted to separate those two things so folks don't think that like if somebody comes to speak, we can never talk to them or talk back with them. It just depends on where they're situated in the agenda and what they want to speak on.
Yep. Good point. Good point.
Thank you. Thank you, Alder. So back to you, Sarah.
Alrighty. All right. So the second plan is the housing plan. Mike Zimmerman, our Economic Development Director, and Lorene Gage and Joyce Fry are overseeing the housing update plan. And so this is looking at ways that we can have more affordable housing in Fitchburg. I know that they did a massive community survey to kind of gauge, where are people living, where do they want to live? Do they want apartments? Do they want single family homes? So they are working on that housing plan update. And so if we would like to review kind of where they're at or have questions for them, this is where we can reach out to economic development team.
I would just say, coming from Seattle, this can often blow up from an equity perspective as a hot button area for us to really consider. There's YIMBYs and NIMBYs and all the IMBYs in between. So just be aware that this is a really good one to delve into and really get to know.
And then the next...
And it is. It is. And I actually am on the steering committee for the housing plan. And they did above and beyond just surveys. They went out and talked to groups, seniors as well as just residents, what have you. Then they did, the surveys or whatever. So, and I agree with you, Chris. This is a good one that we really need to take a look at because, as we all know, housing is a huge issue nationwide, not just in Fitchburg, but in Fitchburg we have a real issue in terms of housing as well.
Thank you, Janice.
Absolutely. The next plan is called City in Motion. So this is another one by our Economic Development Director, Mike Zimmerman. And really he works with the businesses to try to bring in more, bring in organizations that are gonna help enhance our community, whether that's sports facilities, different arts and culture spaces, even transit improvements. So right now, Mike is working on a City in Motion plan. This is something that they always have, but it looks like they're doing an update. So this is another one we could invite Mike.
That'll be
Those are just 3 examples. It goes beyond sports, arts, culture, transit, but those are just some examples. And then the next plan is the Healthy Neighborhoods Strategic Plan. And so this is looking at ways that we can work within our priority neighborhoods and make them healthy neighborhoods. This is looking at housing, infrastructure, access to services, and community engagement, empowerment, health and safety improvements. So Jessica Wolf, who is our Community Development Program Coordinator, she is our team lead for this strategic plan. So if we have questions about kind of what is going on with that, we can invite her in. She works directly with the H&I committee. So that's another side committee that's focused on this, on healthy neighborhoods.
Oh, that'll be a good one. It seems like it would behoove us to have each of those individuals come in and talk with us on the plan. That just gives us more information for us to do our work better as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the 5-year strategic plan, this is the one that we talked about early on. This was the city's first and only kick at the can of a strategic plan. So we've never had a city strategic plan before. So it had goals in there, objectives, our initiatives, how we were going to measure whether we were, making success or not. So that is what's on hold right now. So our staff contact for that is Adam Sayre, our Deputy City Administrator. So I can certainly follow up with him and find out maybe what some next steps are and what that timeline is, but I don't have that for you today. And then the communications plan. So the city is working on a communications plan. Our staff contact for this is Jeremy Crosby. He's our communications manager. And he is working on this plan. It's going to document, our internal, our external communications, our brand consistency, how we kind of get the word out about different things, how the city communicates with the community, really. So we could always bring in Jeremy too to ask, just ask some questions, and then we can also, if there's committee presentations where some of these folks are at, we can also watch those outside of the meeting. And I think our last, so those are the 6 plans that are in the works right now. And I talked to Mayor about, kind of the role of the Community Equity Committee. And as you know, part of the ordinance is that you are reviewing city plans and providing feedback on ways that we can kind of make them more equitable. So there's ways for us to get involved, going to some of the community meetings, watching some of the meetings. The plans being presented to you once they're in the most, final form. So you don't necessarily get them early on when they're like in the pre-planning steps. You get them when they're, presented to like Plan Commission. So when comprehensive plan gets presented to the Planning Commission, that's when the community equity sees it, is through when it's at that stage, if that makes sense.
So I would love to start a process and maybe figure out what is our cadence of reviewing these plans based on urgency in the city. So what's coming first, I guess, would make the most sense. But I think also some feedback directly to city leadership, and whether that's alders, the mayor, and or directors, that maybe we develop a list of considerations in the early stages so that by the time it gets to us, the questions that we're bringing to the table are additive and not subtractive. So we're not, like this, the strategic plan, like we had some critical questions that may or may not have helped like stop that in its tracks, which is good or not good in many ways. So like, I'm not gonna judge on whether that was a good or bad thing, but we don't want to increase disparate outcomes. So if that's an outcome because considerations weren't made, then obviously that's good that it was stopped in its tracks. So, so we want to be additive. We don't want to be frustrating for the city. So maybe one thing I propose that we consider a small group thinking about what would be a list of things, considerations for leadership as these plans are being developed before they get to the final kind of stages to us, and that we're doing more of a broad review that we can, we can compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. But that's just and we're kind of in discussion phase for the meeting, but just kind of some top of mind thoughts in regards to the presentation.
That's a great idea.
Just seeing those 6 plans, I feel like the most important plan for us is the communication plan. I feel like, and that might be a hot take, but all the other plans depend on the success of communication, basically. In order to get feedback, in order to get messaging out, like I feel like from our perspective, we should have a lot of opinions on the communication aspect. I think out of all of them, the one I'd most want to hear from is the communication one. It just seems like the logical first.
I definitely agree with Chase. Well, just an aside though, I will say, if I had to pick one, that's what we're doing. Like the housing one is really important. Like I really think folks should really look at that one because that's going to tell you like where these developments and what we need and kind of some of the areas and pockets of the city that we need certain types of housing to go up. And we need diversification of housing as well. As these prices continue to rise and construction costs continue to rise, it's going to be. And Chase probably knows this better than anyone in the room, given what he does and who he works with. But we need to increase the supply to drive our prices down and make it affordable. Begin to be affordable for folks to buy their first home or whatever type of home they would like to, if we're going to continue to be one of the fastest growing municipalities in the Dane County area.
I think one thing that's coming up for me is like seeing the number of plans and the number of us, and all of them feel important in some kind of way. I wonder if once you're able to kind of help us map out when things are happening, if we might say like 1 or 2 of us assign ourselves to one plan, right? And so say, just for example, you want to do the communications plan and I want to do that with you. Then before we're going to be reviewing the plan, like the 2 of us would take a real deep dive, right? Like read it really, really thoroughly and come back to the whole committee and share. And so like, obviously everyone's going to read everything to the degree possible, but I'm just wondering if we want to kind of share the load a little bit of the, so that we can make sure that everything gets somebody's like full attention.
I like that idea. I also think, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So while I love your energy about the communications plan, because that's my wheelhouse. I also I think we can do a couple of things, and as you're saying, I think breaking up into smaller groups potentially to review some of these in a more, immersive way is probably a smart choice. But if the comprehensive plan is at the beginning stages and maybe next year it really kicks into gear, maybe not that one for a minute. That's just an example, so I think the timing does actually matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I guess I think it's important for us to know when are they planning on rolling these plans out. For example, the housing plan. I think they have some dates specific to these plans that we need to know more about in terms of us, prioritizing what we focus on versus what we think as a group is the most important. I think there's some other information that we need to know, specific to times, like the housing plan. When are they trying to roll that out? Is that one that's being rolled out right away? Don't know that. So I think that's some information that we need to find out as well. And I think that will determine also which ones, how we prioritize the ones we focus on first.
There's still the bike and ped plan. So Donald, you mentioned at council that did not pass and it's going to come back to community equity, right?
No, we passed it with some amendments, but Mr. Chair and I spoke with Steve Arnold today via email about some additional things that need to be in that plan that he wants to bring to the Community Equity Committee and get their opinion on before. So basically what we talked about was, like with a lot of these, all of these plans that we're talking about, a more robust way to like constantly update them potentially yearly in that sense,
Yeah.
so that these things can come in front of it, the necessary individuals, and we aren't doing them so infrequent that when they do come in front of a committee, there's a laundry list of changes to make and constantly being voted on. So a more frequent update basis is what we're going to talk about. But probably at some point in the next month or so here, we'll probably have former Mayor Arnold back in to talk about those changes and to get the committee's input.
So,
But it did pass last night with a few amendments.
Okay.
okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, all these committees I think are really important and they're all unique in themselves. But I think what Chris's point was earlier, that we should come up with some kind of a format to really, look at these committees and think, okay, what influence or what type of things should we be looking for within these committees that are common also, that have direct impact on the goals of our committee as a community equity committee. I think we have a membership now, right? That's probably coming up, isn't it? And I wanted to say GARE. So there may be some tools, I'm guessing, that are available in that unique piece of equipment, or whatever we don't call it, I guess, and it may already have some really good things that can help us already make some of those decisions, and then look at each of those committees, even though they're unique and different, but also look at the same kinds of goals and same kinds of things we want to focus on as a committee. If that makes sense.
Totally agree. And on top of that, like, to Chris's point too, like a rubric of some kind. Like, if you are putting something out for RFP, like, have you considered X, Y, and Z every time? Just table stakes, right? So I think that's the kind of, if I'm understanding correctly, that's kind of what we want to get to. Some kind of just these are like, if you've done these 3 things, then it'll probably make your review with us a little bit easier. Kind of thing.
So I have a proposal, having listened to all of the comments back. There really looks like two action items immediately. One is getting a timeline of all of the different plans. And it sounds like the bike and pedestrian plan is pretty on the edge for us to really look at and consider, especially with the speaker coming in to give us more input. But if maybe, Sarah, we could get a list of immediacy for those plans. And then we, from that point, once we have that, we can start figuring out who's going to lead and what the team is going to look like for review. And then the other thing is, and to your point, Bill, looking at potentially GARE, what tools there are within the GARE platform. They have lots of toolkits, maybe delving a little deeper into that. Maybe we initially have another group that starts going through the different tools, and we come up with a list of equity considerations, or maybe, dare I say, expectations before it gets to us, that we can really help guide discussions before they get to us. And so I think those are the 2 things that I see really kind of coming out. Any other discussion?
No, I would agree with you, and I'm just, I'm familiar with the tools. I know that there's so many of them, and they are all pretty lengthy. So I'm wondering, I don't know how you all feel about this idea, but like, I'm wondering if like sometime in the next few months we could maybe have like a retreat, or like a time where we had a little bit more time as a committee to put a tool together. You know what I mean? Like, it feels to me like trying to do that in a 1-hour meeting where we have other things on the agenda might be tricky.
There was the city of.
Could I just say something right quick to that point?
Sure.
So for like, I love the idea. So before like I rain on anybody's parade, I just want to say that. But we are, if you're speaking about the entire committee doing this, we would have to figure that out, because we were basically allotted a certain pot of money for a certain amount of committee members for a certain amount of meetings per year. And then we also have to consider if it's the full committee, contacting FACTv and see if they're available and like those types of things. So just keep that in mind if we're thinking about doing like these large types of group settings where the whole like we would be there discussing the equity bit, the committee business.
Is, Donald, question related to that. I know that for school board, that we can actually, there's state law that if we have closed door session, that we can talk about things if it's, especially of legal nature, et cetera, that if we have to get into details that are, you know, there's a pending litigation or whatever that we need to be aware of, that sometimes happens on school boards. Do we have that as well as option, or is it really limited to what those closed door sessions can be about?
Wisconsin statute has some strict laws about when you can go into closed session and what you can talk
Sure.
about in closed session. So if it's not like the performance of there's certain parameters, so we have to look into those. And for the most part, I think almost everything we talk about will be an open session. So I think it'll be really rare if we ever go into closed session.
The other thing I was going to add in regards to I know when we were entering the pandemic and I was doing work, DEI work, or what we call RSGI work, Racial Social Justice Initiative work at the City of Seattle, we had a very abbreviated racial equity toolkit that we used, and it was basically a set of questions that were critical to what is the point of the racial equity toolkit without having to go through all the different processes. Like, are there ways to really expedite that process because of the pandemic, and we were limited in being able to meet with people, et cetera. So let me dig that up. I'll present that maybe publicly or via email so that we all have access to it. But that could be a starting place that we can just offer, like, this might be, as you're going to a planning process, these are the questions that we're really thinking about as we're reviewing different plans.
Is there any, and this is a new person question, preface that, but is there any like disclosure methodology with these like RFPs? Like, because what came out in the like discussion last time was that they had like talked to organizations, but not actual people that like live in the neighborhoods, right? And so like, had we known that up front, like we could have come with that type of question, like this is what we. So like if it's, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, in addition to some of the questions, like is there some kind of, for the RFP process?
It goes back to what Christopher is mentioning, is that maybe if the team can have a foundation, some type of document that gives you pointers even at the RFP process. Because I'm not aware of anything right now where the city, you know, we have different RFPs and we can tailor them to whatever we're using, but we don't really have a standard equitable, probably RFP template. You know what I mean?
So from the racial equity toolkit that I mentioned earlier, really from GARE, the main question is, what are the unintended consequences of this policy?
Sure.
How do you determine that? Are you in the glass tower, the City of Seattle, making decisions for communities that might be impacted that you don't have connection to? So how do you identify what the disparity is? And then through the process of planning, is there a way to mitigate that? And so that requires a deep engagement. We do have healthy neighborhoods within the city that we have already defined within the city boundaries. So one thing, and this is just an example, I'm not proposing this, would be maybe in our list of suggestions or requirements or considerations that we're asking folks in the early planning stages to prioritize healthy neighborhoods, and that there's an engagement process. And we could help define what that engagement process is. It could be that it's an organization, it could be that it's a public engagement process, and then, you know, defining what those parameters are. So that would be an example, and just, I'm not proposing anything, but just lay out like what that might look like.
Yeah, and I think where I'm coming from is, you know, the rigidity at our public institutions, of which I work for and need to get like very specific RFPs. You know, do you have to get at least 3? Like, is there, like that, even before we even get to the RFP itself, like, who are we contacting for these RFPs? Like, just the same, it sounded like the same company last time that did the bike and pedestrian one without.
I think we're required to put it out on bidding platforms where we're really,
Okay.
I mean, we have to send it to as many different companies that, like when we did a compensation survey for the city, we sent it to all the different area compensation consultants. So and not just the one that we always work with, right? Because we do position studies through one consultant. So we ended up sending it to anyone that does that type of work. So I think that's pretty standard.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that we just choose someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes we may only get one response.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
Which totally
and then the other, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alder Dantzler, oftentimes, you know, we are looking for the lowest bid within that process. So
yeah,
those are kind of the,
Correct.
yeah.
yes.
So just to clarify your question, because I don't think I got a straight answer about it. Are we allowed to get together then as a small group that's not quorum, in other words, to work on different readings and develop questions, et cetera, for plans instead of getting together as a whole group? I mean, am I hearing this right, that we can't? Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying that.
Yeah, basically, I mean, the literal law is you can't have anybody you can't have a quorum in a room for anything without posting it, basically, unless it's completely provably social and just happenstance, or it's
Then we will figure out a timeline and communicate and
Absolutely. And then I just want to make sure people know we have a 6:15 end time because there's a meeting right after us too. So I just wanted to let you know.
great.
Can I just say one thing real quick? I think one other thing I wanted to mention, and this might sound like more work, but you can do it asynchronously instead of watching them live. Just watching some of the other meetings, like commission meetings that some of these plans will go to, and just hear some of those discussions or potentially reading the minutes for them can also help and inform some of the work that we do when we are in here discussing as well, because we oftentimes do a lot of that. Even the alders just watching other committees, so we know what's going on things that are being brought before the council and committee as a whole.
So considering that there is, thank you, Alder Dantzler. Considering we have 10 minutes remaining and we have quite a few agenda items as well, I would like to propose that we go on to item number 4C and have a brief discussion about the new hub park. Actually, I will announce that the Common Council agreed on a name last night, Hastahochi, which was in partnership with the Ho-Chunk Nation. Yay for City of Fitchburg. And then I would propose that we then table or move on to the next meeting, letters D and E, so that we don't run out of time. All in favor?
You can just make a motion to change the order of what you want to discuss things on the agenda.
Great.
And then whatever you don't get to will be considered old business on the next agenda.
Okay, great. So I did that. So the mayor would like us to consider, just give some feedback around potential programming for the Hastahochi Park and Community Center. and potentially how that space could be used. There, at this time, there is no budget and no staffing for that location. One thing that I will put out there is, my perspective is now that we have this name that was in partnership with the Ho-Chunk, I think there's a real opportunity to think about culturally appropriate programming in partnership with the Ho-Chunk. I think that, there's discussions and relationships and kind of deeper conversation that have to kind of move forward with that. But as we think about the naming process and whatever that ribbon cutting might look like, there's already been an official ribbon cutting for the space. But if there's an official way that we anoint that name, I think that's a good starting spot to start having the discussion with the Ho-Chunk Nation. But I'll just leave that there and open the floor for other discussion for programming.
Yeah, I think there's several different categories that we could look at over there. The fact that there's not going to be staff there, but I think working with various organizations within our community, that space could be utilized very well. For example, under a category of health and wellness, you've got visiting nurses that could set up, come there maybe once a month or what have you during flu season, and give the flu shots to those people in that community, or people blood pressure, different things, to health and wellness. They do a lot of that throughout the Madison area in terms of visiting nurses and what have you. So there's health and wellness areas that we could take a look at. Again, you spoke about cultural issues. There's cultural celebrations we can do with the Ho-Chunk Nation, but also with representing the residents that live over in that particular community. So we should take a look. There's opportunities for various cultural activities there and celebrations, back to school celebrations for that community. There's some things, educational things. You could work with some of the organizations like the 100 Black Men or the Women in Focus to do tutoring sessions over there. So there's a plethora of opportunity for that building to be utilized. So those are some things that we could take a look at as well. So that's my 2 cents on some of those short lists of it.
Thank you, Janice.
Two thoughts come up for me, and one is related to what you just shared, Janice, is just potentially partnering with like community health workers to have space there on some sort of regular basis. And then I don't know what our capacity is with the library, but I know, sometimes the Madison Library has like mobile book bus type of thing. And so like having some little pop-up library opportunities for people who maybe have more limited transportation to be able to give them access to the Fitchburg Library resources.
They do have that available in Fitchburg. Right. They do have.
Yeah, they do, and they do some of that. Yeah, there's a plethora of things that can go on over at there, and without costing the city, extra money, or having to have specific staff.
I would consider also looking at the different elements of the park. So we have a pump track there. I know that we have lots of biking organizations that could use that space for many things. The Madison Reading Project, I know well. Again, another reading project. The location, also want to recognize the diversity of that neighborhood and that location.
Yes.
Racially diverse. Yes. There is a senior living complex across the street. So it's just very central. There's a lot of opportunity for us to really engage lots of different communities there.
Seems actually a good opportunity for us to do some community engagement to find out what people might want.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point.
Yes.
Do we know when officially it will be open for community to utilize?
I think we can already start to potentially, I think they're still doing some finishing touches on it, but I think in the coming month or so, I think then we can start holding things there. Yeah.
Could we have a meeting there?
Ooh, that would be interesting. I'll have to talk to FACTv and see how we can be set up there. I'll talk to FACTv about our February meeting being there.
Okay, that'd be cool. Any other thoughts? Janice, I have a question for you. would you,
Yes.
this question, would you want to, maybe, I would love for you and I to sit down and maybe delve deeper into this, and maybe Colleen, you have
Okay.
good ideas too. I'm happy to not, if someone else wants to jump in on that, but maybe we can have
No,
a
yeah,
small
let's
group.
do it. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do this because I think that community certainly could use what we're talking about over there. And as you indicated, there's such a diverse community over there, so we could do a variety of things to enhance that community. So yes, I'm willing to work with you on this, Chris. Let's do it.
Great. Colleen or anyone else? Okay, we got you 2 things already, Colleen, so.
Just throwing it out there,
Sure.
but I mean,
Yeah, Colleen, come on, join us, Colleen. Come on. Okay, it's Chris, Janice, and Colleen. We're gonna do this.
actually, I'll take it back. 'Cause I'm being left, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Well, so I have to move to adjournment. So we are towards the end of our meeting. We only do have an hour. I forget that we only have an hour. I apologize that we didn't, I had to move us along further. I do want to just publicly state that it's been a very difficult few weeks since we last met, and I want to be very real about that. We are in a time of a lot of darkness in many of our communities, and I think there's a lot of fear that many of our communities are facing with the presence of ICE in the communities that we're seeing in Minnesota. But I will say that for me, that I appreciate that we have this opportunity as a group to work together and really bring the values of our city in working order within this group. So I just wanted to show my appreciation to you all being here, that offers a lot of light in the world right now, and I really appreciate the city for allowing us to have that space, this space, and for the community to be engaged with us in this conversation. So I just want to leave us there. And with that, as we are out of time, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all.